everyone, it's Zara Blue here, and so today I wanted to come on here and talk about love bombing. And so love bombing is something that is integral to understand if you want to understand abuse and manipulation. It's one of the stage setters, what I like to say. It's one of those essential building blocks that abusers frequently use as a way to reel us in. And it's just full on a manipulation tactic that everyone should be aware of, and it can save you a lot of heartache. Oftentimes, if you can recognize this up front, you can save yourself from interacting with a lot of abusive people. And so if that interests you, keep on watching, and I'm just going to jump right into it. So love bombing is when an abusive, narcissistic, or manipulative person essentially shows their victim or shows a person an abnormal amount of love and affection, and showers them with love, affection, validation as a way to kind of set the stage for abuse. And so it's a way to kind of reel somebody in and trap them. It's essentially a trap, and it's something that a lot of people fall for, unfortunately. And so again, love bombing is essentially an abuse tactic that involves showering a person with love, affection, moving really fast. It essentially makes a person feel like they are hyper valued, they are wanted, they are desired. It makes a person feel like they are so special to this abuser, to this person. And they do it so that when they start abusing you, you start having this sense of sunk cost fallacy. So they'll treat you very kindly, shower you with affection, and then they will transition into maybe slowly or gradually abusing you and demeaning you and devaluing you. But then as they do that, they'll every once in a while kind of show you that abnormal amount of love again. And as a way to kind of keep you it's that I think I talked about it in another video, that intermittent reinforcement. And so it's essentially just showering somebody with abnormal amounts of affection as a means to manipulate them. And so most normal people see love bombing as creepy. I shouldn't say normal people, but healthy people see love bombing as creepy, because most people are not healthy. And so love bombing is very creepy because typically these narcissists and these highly manipulative people, when they love bomb, it's creepy. So imagine meeting someone, and so many people, you may have been in this situation. I've experienced it in minor ways, and I'm going to get into that later on. I was able to catch a person before they could really go any further with what they were doing, and I was able to stop it and cut it off. But imagine meeting somebody, and maybe this is just somebody you meet, maybe you're thinking about dating them, and you've known them for about a week and they're already dropping the I love you. Or maybe they're asking to move in with you after you've only been dating or talking for 2 weeks. Or maybe they are constantly showering you with compliments, you're just so beautiful and you're so pretty, to a point where it's not flattering. It's whoa, this is a lot. What? It's just confusing. And love bombing is kind of meant to be this tidal wave that disorients the victim and makes them get swept up in these emotions, and these positive emotions, and these emotions that make you feel as though you are in a psychedelic fairy tale. It's meant to disorient you so that your logic, your brain releases chemicals, endorphins, that make you essentially lose basic logic. And so it's a way to overwhelm you and fall for abusers. And so imagine if, this person's showering you with compliments, maybe they're just moving really fast. They want to move in. They're constantly calling you and texting you, taking offense when you don't text them back in 5 minutes. Maybe they're offering to cook you and buy you breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're being way too nice. It because it's you're being way too nice. To a point where you're kind of making yourself a human doormat and being way too nice. And these people will also typically mirror you. So a love bomber will, let's just say if you're really passionate about anti-racism, and you're really passionate about, what else? Art as a form of healing, or maybe you're really passionate about plants. So let's just say this person has none of those things in common with you. Let's just say they don't value or they're not passionate about any of the same things, which is in some cases that's I'd hope you'd be passionate about anti-racism, but let's just say for sake's sake, let's just say the person's not passionate about the same things, the person will become a human chameleon essentially, and will kind of morph themselves to your needs and to your likes and your dislikes. And so they'll be like, I'm really passionate about plants too, and I've really, I've been fighting for anti-racism, I'm a part of this organization, and I do this type of groundwork, and I went to this Black Lives Matter meeting, and they may be lying through their teeth. They're just trying to mirror you. It's called mirroring. It's an abuse tactic in and of itself, but it can also be a part of love bombing. New Mindframe did a really good video on love bombing, and she was talking about how, like, I guess she was born like February 5th, and her boyfriend at the time was like, oh, well, I was born March 5th, and we were born exactly a month apart. And then, like, he was trying to draw all these odd connections between her and him. And like, he was like, we are not soul siblings, like, you're my soulmate. Soul siblings, ew, sorry. But you're my soulmate, we have this in common. They're always trying to draw some connection for like what you guys have in common, and it's like to a point where they're like stretching, and it feels uncomfortable. So the biggest thing is, when you're being love bombed, there's usually always some alarm bell that goes off in your head that'll say, hey, I'm a little uncomfortable right now. But a lot of times we ignore it, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now, is why we typically ignore this bell. And so again, I just want to say too, and I know I said this before, but I'm going to say it again. The whole point of love bombing is that the person is essentially treating you really nicely so that they can very slowly start treating you badly. So it's not just like, because I know there might be somebody who's like, well, I'm a really nice person, or they might know somebody who's really, really kind, and they might be like, well, I would never want to hurt anybody, which always double check yourself. But it's one of those things where there are nice people, but if they're being abnormally nice, it's typically because they're trying to trap you into something. They're trying to be nice to you so that when they start devaluing you and treating you poorly and slowly abusing you, you don't see it coming, and you also feel trapped because you're like, but they were nice to me, and now I'm gonna miss that affection they're gonna give me. And I'm it's a sunk cost fallacy, like I stated earlier. It's this whole idea that, what if I'm missing out on a really good girl, or a really great guy, or a really good guy? Like, what if I'm missing out on this really good human? Like, what if they're actually this great person and they're just having like a bad run or a bad day? And it's really, really sad, because there was this post on Instagram. Dana Morningstar referenced it the other day in one of her videos, and it said, being in love with an emotional manipulator is this weird catch-22, because it's like you fear ever being hurt like that again, but then you also fear never being loved like that again. And that love is referencing that love bombing, how they typically, like, the love feels so like, it's like taking a bath sometimes. And it's like taking like this bath of love. And sometimes they're really good at it. Sometimes they make it feel like they genuinely love you, and they don't. They're just trying to use you as a supply. They're loving you so hard so that when they start devaluing you, you start getting like this weird cognitive dissonance where you're like, oh my God, but the good times were so good, and I want to return to that. So I'm going to try and conform myself to my abuser so we can return to those good love bombing times. And so it keeps you trapped in this never ending cycle of them love bombing you, then slowly abusing you, you breaking down, them love bombing you again so you don't leave them, and then they start abusing you, and they start love bombing you again. And I wanted to talk about, maybe I meant to do this a second ago, but I got sidetracked, but I want to talk about maybe why we do this and why we get caught up into it. And so typically, people who have grown up in abusive homes, or who've survived domestic violence, abuse, spousal abuse, or just had childhoods where they were denied a lot of love, affection, had neglectful parents, had parents who really didn't ask them how their day was. And what I mean by that is parents who didn't really give to SHITs about their children's thoughts, and just kind of treated them like little rats that were in the house. People who grew up being bullied, like anybody who's been denied love in their life in a very extreme way, because I know a lot of people have experienced bullying, including myself, but as somebody who grew up in a home that lacked a lot of things, love bombing was something that as I got older, I fell for. I was denied a lot of love and a lot of fair treatment and normalcy in my childhood. And I was denied a lot of just like basic interactions and healthy interactions with people. And as I got older, and I was denied a lot of kindness. And I could probably say that many of you have been too, but I was denied a lot of kindness. So when I entered the world and I met these love bomby people, these narcissists or these manipulators who saw me as a really kind person, but could see that I was lacking. I had been denied love because it was not that it was obvious, but it was just one of those things where these people can smell anything out. I was a very nice person who kind of had poor boundaries. They would love bomb me, only to maybe weeks, months later start devaluing me and tearing me apart and treating me badly and all of the above. And that's how I fell for these people. And I think for a lot of us who grew up lacking love, or who were denied just love, space, human interaction, we were denied all the basic things that essentially make us people and help us have healthy relationships in the future. It's easy to fall for this. When you haven't been shown kindness, it's very easy to fall for somebody who shows you kindness. It's very easy. And it's hard not to fall for it. And it's really important that we're protecting ourselves, and that when we've grown up in abusive homes, we need to acknowledge it. And we need to acknowledge that we've been denied that love, and we need to work on filling up those empty buckets. And empty buckets are essentially the ways in which we have been denied things in our lives, and how those are kind of these vulnerability points that narcissists can target. And so what I mean by that, I say that so much, but what I mean by that, but like, let's just say, like for me, I was denied kindness. And so oftentimes when I meet somebody who's really, really kind to me, I'm more likely to fall for it. I just fall for it immediately. And it's like, oh no, don't do that. Like, don't just fall for somebody just because they're kind. Kindness is cheap. Anybody can be kind. Kindness is free. Like, somebody being kind doesn't mean that they're sincere or nice, I have a friend who, I got permission to share this, so it's fine, but she had a learning disability, and she still does. And growing up, she was met with a lot of ableism and harassment, and she was treated really badly for having this learning disability, because oftentimes when she was forced to read in front of the class, or anytime she did anything, this, it became apparent that she had this disability, and people would treat her very badly and demean her. So when she went out into the world as an adult, and she met somebody who she was able to share her disability with them, and they were like, oh, I have that disability too. And, they, kind of bonded over that, and she was able to kind of meet somebody who understood her, or so she thought. And this person, claimed that they had the same disability. They accepted her, they stood up for her, and they kind of shared this experience. I'm not going to go into detail what the disability is, but oh, I had trouble with this too. I experienced this in school too. I do this and I do that. So this person had essentially done all this research on this disability as a way to kind of hook my friend in, and to kind of deceive her. And this person, the abuser in this situation, did not have this disability at all. They were essentially being performative, and they were, that's a key word here, performative. They were being performative, and they were essentially pretending to have this disability as a way to rope in my friend. And then they started slowly roping her in. And then at some point they just stopped, and they just started treating her really badly and using her disability and weaponizing her disability as a way to abuse her. So, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're inept, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, none of that is true. But this person essentially grasped her vulnerabilities, pretended to have the same vulnerabilities, pretended to love and accept her and value her for it. Then they turned around and used them against her, and then tried to rinse and repeat that same cycle. And she was able to get away, luckily enough, but a lot of people aren't. And it's important that, we are attentive to what these types of abusers can look like, and that just because somebody's nice, like I said in my last video, manipulative people will come off as passive and nice. And love bombing and these abnormal projections of affection are exactly that. And we must learn to have our ears perked up for these types of things. And so I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and I think I'm going to continue it in a part 2, just because I don't want it to be a 30-minute long video like all my other ones. I'm trying to get better at shortening my videos. But if you like this video, subscribe. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you for my 5 subscribers. I appreciate you all. So yeah, signing out.